What's happening, Blades? Welcome to the Blades Ramble. What can we say? It's a roller coaster, isn't it, following this club? Unbelievable. So yeah, for those of you that haven't seen, obviously I've watched the game, which is the reason for the time tonight. Just touching on that very briefly. I thought it were poor. I'm not quite convinced or sure why we went 4 at the back for the first 75 minutes. We haven't played that successfully for 5 years. Longer, probably. I'm not questioning Eke. Obviously, it's just about getting fitness into legs. I'm not overly concerned about the result. I thought some players didn't really do themselves much justice. But I thought others, Harrison Neal, standout player for me tonight. And welcome to the table, because he's not really been a standout player for us. He's not really been one of the names that we've talked about. Louis Marsh, Sai Sachdev coming through. Andre Brooks. I'm excited every time I see Andre Brooks in a Blades shirt. I think he plays well every time, gets better and better. But yeah, so I'm not overly concerned. Obviously, we've got some kids out. Last 15 minutes or so. I think we're really strong in terms of the youth academy, and obviously we've got to remember this was just half of the first team. The other half will be playing tomorrow in that behind closed doors game against Girona. So it's not as poor as it may seem on the surface, because it weren't the most entertaining of games. I thought second half were much better than the terrible first half. And obviously, Ollie Norwood's all right. But yeah, the reason we're on a stream tonight, which we all know, is the pendulum seems to have swung back again, doesn't it? Illiman has been back and forth on what he wants to do. And it appears at the moment, or even this could be it. It appears, and I've no insider knowledge, but we piece things together and heard little whispers here and there. He doesn't want to sign a deal. And friend of the channel, Darren Smith, posted a tweet that I know not everybody that follows the Ramble is on Twitter. And he were basically saying, let me find it. He said, he put a poll up, Illiman and Dye. I think Nixon is correct on this one, because Alan Nixon reports for The Sun, very Marmite reporter. Some think he's great, some think he's dodgy and don't believe a word he says. He'd reported that talks have broken down with United and Illiman. We couldn't agree on certain clauses in his contract offer, and he's now pushing for a move to Marseille. So Darren has put on, we know is very close to the club, very well informed. I think Nixon is correct in one aspect of his story today, in the fact that it's crunch time. I don't think the Blades can improve on their current offer. With Illy showing little sign, he's willing to sign it. So that, for me, that tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? Showing little sign that he wants to sign the contract. So what would you do if you were Blades? And I can go either way on this. So there's 2 jobs for you Ramblers tonight. The Ramblers and the people that subscribe. You've got to convince me whether if we assume that he's wanting to go to Marseille at some stage, do we cash in now and reinvest in the squad? Or do we keep him and hope for the best, hope he can keep us up and he leaves for nothing at the end of the season? I can argue that to sell him, we could get 15, probably 20 million at most, because it's going to be Marseille. Don't want to talk to anybody else. And Marseille, even though they're throwing money around, don't want to go much higher, because he's only got a year left on his contract. They can sign a pre-contract to him in January for him to come at end of season for nothing. So we can either do that and make the deal with Marseille and get something like, I mean, we want to be asking for like a 20% sell on, because if they're selling for 50 then, which he could easily go for 50 million in a couple of years, particularly if he's played in Champions League and done well, which I think a lot of us that have seen him think he might. If he goes for 50 million quid, we get 10. So I think there's possibly a deal to be done there. I think we can use the money to, listen, there's talk about a Cameron Archer being available, and I'm not going to bang on about the same man every time, but I think that will cushion the blow quite nicely, personally. And you've got to think, we get 15, 20 million quid in. we buy a player like Archer, we get him on a 4 or 5 year contract. I know he's not the same player as Illiman. The different positions, for one, he's an out-and-out striker and a finisher is Archer. But is that not a better position to be in as a club? We're now a sustainable club. If we go, I appreciate more people want to spend and speculate to accumulate, and we've got to go for it and try and stay in the Premier League. And I understand that thought process. But when we talk about being a sustainable club, we need to factor in things like, if we were to get relegated, how are we going to be? How are we going to cope in the Championship? What's the forecast going to look like? What's the balance sheet going to look like, essentially? I don't buy this. And Wolfgang Bailey, I've just seen a comment from you on Twitter, pal, and I agree with 99.9% of everything he says. I think he's very knowledgeable on the game, and his comments are very good. So if you don't follow him, please do. But I disagree with the comment on, well, it cost us nothing. It cost us nothing, so we're not losing anything. It's not a balance sheet transaction for me. It's more, so yeah, if you're talking about an asset in a company, and it's the most clinical way of looking at it, then yeah, he's an asset and we haven't paid anything for him, so he's not worth anything. You're kidding yourself. We all know, not just you, mate, but I mean, if you have that thought process, I think he is an asset for us now worth, if he were in contract, he'd be a 35, 40 million pound player quite easily, and we can't replace him. So we've got to make the best of it while he's here, I think. Or the other side of the coin, do we keep him for the season and let him walk out for nothing? Well, keeping Illiman and Dye, no doubt, gives us a much better chance of staying up. I'm all over that, and I want him to stay. But what if he can't keep us up? What if Illiman and Sanderberger, who is being forgotten about a little bit in this saga, because he's the one that's trying to pull away, really, and not interested in talking to us. At least Illiman's come to the table and had a discussion. What if we get relegated and Illiman and Sander walk out for nothing, and we could have used that money to buy, for example, sell them now and buy a Tommy Doyle and a Cameron Archer? Not the same caliber, but for the longevity of the club and the asset that you're purchasing on the longer contracts, they're probably a little bit too far-fetched for what we're able to do. I don't know. But yeah, I haven't even said hello to everybody yet. So, and there's loads of comments flying in, but it's one of them, isn't it? I might turn a bit ranted during this one, because I'm just getting a little bit to where I think we all are as well. We just want to know now, don't we? And I think we're getting there. I think it looks like we've lost out in this one, and it's just what happens and what's best for the club moving forward. It may change again, because this has swung back and forth. He's been going, then staying, then going, then staying, and now going again. So we'll see. So he's playing tonight, so it can't be imminent, but who knows, says Dave. I wish he'd just sign. I know, me too, mate. Can't do any more other than meet whatever release fee his agent wants. Trust the board to protect the club first and foremost. I think it's unwise. If they think it's unwise, then that's it. I absolutely agree. And this is why I mentioned last time, when it looked like he were going to stay, the last live we did a couple of days ago, probably, I think it was. I lose track. It's all over the place sometimes. But we can't forget, even if it means he's going to walk out now, I've already seen some people saying, get the Prince out. He can't offer him enough money to stay and all. It's not about money for Illiman. If it were about money, he won't be negotiating with us. He'd be negotiating with Saudi, if you talk about an extreme level, or he'd be negotiating with top end at Premier League, Newcastle's, Tottenham's, that sort of level. Chelsea, I'm sure, would take him. Them sort of clubs, I'm not saying he'd be a starter immediately for them all, but I think we've got to be realistic. It's not a money issue. We've offered him the absolute best deal we can, and I think that's more than fair. I don't think in this, and as I say, I've no dog in the fight. I don't have to roll out an agenda or protect anybody. I know it's difficult for some to comment on things straight down the middle, but I can, if I thought the board could have done more, I'm more than happy to call them out on it. But I don't see what else we can do in this scenario. And I don't think, some have speculated that by Darren posting that tweet on Twitter, is it the Prince that's putting feelers out? And maybe Is the Prince wanting the fans' opinion on whether we keep him for the season and let him walk out for nothing, or we sell him? And that there might be something to that, because we know that he's active on social media and he's more in touch with the fans than I think we give him credit for sometimes. So, and Darren said on our Ramble chat that the Prince had asked him to put feelers out as a sort of test this with the fan base, see what they say. So it's not beyond possibility that that's what's happened here as well. So yeah, so let me know what you think. Does he stay? Do we keep him for the season and let him walk out for nothing? Yes, he gives us a better chance of promotion of avoiding relegation, but there's a huge risk element to that we walks out for nothing and we're a lot worse off financially. Because some people are saying, well, we've got no Tommy and we've got no McAtee. We're much weaker now. Imagine going down to the Championship with no Tommy, McAtee, Illiman, Sander. It don't bear thinking about, does it? Probably a Nell as well. It'll be one to be sold because everybody's walking out for nothing. So, yeah, concern for me keeping him, but I get why people would want to do it. Or do we cash in now, use that money on him, for him and Sander, and revitalise the whole team? And yeah, we might be a touch weaker for it, and we will be weaker for it because you can't replace Illiman and Die. And I don't think, to a lesser extent, I don't think we'll replace Sander like for like either. But we're on about the long term, establishing our club over the long term. So if we do go down fighting, because we've chosen to take that method, we'll be much stronger in the Championship if we've got a Cameron Archer up front and a Tommy Doyle behind him. So that's your food for thought, and I want you to let me know which way we're going. Mr. Vancouver, one of our ramblers, I'm starting to get sick and tired of all this back and forth crap. If he wants to play in the Premier League with Sheffield United, get it done now. Come on, you Blades. I won't say it better myself. Let's have a decision. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah, it's dangling that carrot in it, Aaron, all the time, and it feels like a little bit of a tease now, doesn't it? And it's not. To be fair, I don't think. Excuse me. I don't think he's done it intentionally. I don't think he's trying to lead anybody up the garden path. I think he's genuinely wanted to stay at some stage, and it's been a difficult decision for him. Those are vibes I'm hearing from things at the minute. So, as I say, I don't think it's like a calculated move. I've no doubt his people are working in the background on the best possible deal for him as an individual. But if that were their ultimate goal, it won't be between us and Marseille, would it? This needs to be sorted out now once and for all. The club needs to be better communicating with the fans. I've never known anything like it. I get that, Michael, and I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, but what do you want them to communicate to us? That there hasn't been a bid from Marseille. That's the issue. We're talking to them informally, and Darren said as much in his tweets and things of that nature, but there's nothing to report currently, and it's difficult to air your dirty laundry. I appreciate the fans have a right to know, but that's not how transfer deals are done, is it? Thoughts on Charlie Patino being linked with us and that Georgian kid? That Georgian kid is not even in the equation. Charlie Patino, I've not heard his name being circulated. I have on social media, but I'm talking about I haven't heard it as a possible target. That doesn't mean to say he's not, because I'm not massively well informed in terms of I'm not inside the club or anything like that. I just talk to people that are every now and again, so I can get bits of information. But Charlie Patino is not a name I've heard. I don't particularly rate Charlie Patino, if I'm honest. I'm not saying he can't become a good player, because I'm sure he can. You know, Mug, if you're playing for Arsenal youth, are you? But he didn't really do much at Blackpool, I didn't think, last season. Obviously, did they finish rock bottom? They were certainly poor in league. So it wouldn't be one that particularly excites me. So I'm not a fan, to be honest. Georgian kid's a bit pricey, but in the right mold. Patino don't know nothing about. Regards Illiman, I hope he signs the contract, says Rich. But I'm getting slightly cheesed off with one day stopping, one day going, yeah. And there could be a bit more of it, couldn't there, as it rumbles on, and it's getting frustrating for people now, which is why I apologise if I'm starting to get a bit ranty about it. But it's not what we want, is it? We want to be as settled as we can going into a new season. Fully support what Mr. Vancouver says. Absolutely. Excuse me again. I've been annoying my wife with that cough all week, so you can have a bit of it as well. We were crap tonight. And what's with Eki going to a back four? Not sure, Scott. Not sure. Listen, I've no gripes with Eki at all. I think I've done enough criticising of him early doors, and he proved me wrong. We've done nothing but progress under Eki. He's involving youth lads who some of them are looking stronger and stronger every time. If he wants to go to a back four in what is essentially a throwaway game, and I know some people don't like to think of it like that, but it's all about the fitness levels at the moment. And yeah, we'd like to have smashed Rotherham 3-0, but if he thinks that's the formation that fits the players he wants to get fit, I don't think necessarily we'll be using that formation. I think he's probably just slotted players in, but I'm not a fan at back four, to be honest, either. Can I get my £6 back? Yeah, I know, Paul. I know, mate. Hi, Mr. Vancouver. Hello there. Wayne agrees, thinks it were poor tonight. Four at back makes 0 sense. It's tried and tested. We can't play it. We created nothing and are poor defensively. Yeah, it weren't a good performance, Scott. It weren't good. Bored now regarding the Ndai talk. I'm just going to ignore it all. Are you tuning out? I hope not. Stay with us, George. Going to ignore it all and see if he's there on the first day of the season. Why are they playing 2 games in 2 days? I don't know. I assume it's opportunistic with Girona, and I don't know the ins and outs. But if they're here for a limited amount of time and they were willing to squeeze another date in, then that's fine. I mean, it's no great loss massively, is it? Because we split the teams. If they were that bothered about getting the rhythm and momentum together for what's going to be our first 11, then they'd just split them up, wouldn't they? They'd have had under 21s playing Rotherham tonight and first team playing Girona. I think there's an argument for doing that anyway. But then fans have paid to go to Rotherham. And you don't want to just put an under 21 side out against Girona, do you, I suppose? So behind closed doors. Because it's in Manchester, isn't it? All right, Mark. Evening, Jimmy. Up the blades. Top 7, all these live rambles. Yeah, I know, mate. We're busy, aren't we, at the minute? Thank you, though. Appreciate it. I'll be honest, Jimmy, says Ian. If Illy's happy with all this crap we're getting from Marseille, then just go with blades. Yeah, I mean, the message I can get in from that, listen, I'm not going to criticise anybody for wanting to go to the boyhood club. We would all want to sign for United if we were in the same position. But the message I get from that sort of comment is no man's bigger than the club. And that's absolutely 100% right. I stand by the fact that he's the best player I think I've ever seen in the United shirt. But nobody's bigger than the club, and he'll move on. Did we really think he were going to stay with us for 5 years, as one of the, up and coming talents in the country and in, international football now? He's on international stage. He's going to Africa Cup of Nations. They're going to be heavy favourites to win it again, and he'll no doubt play a strong part. He's accelerating quicker in his progression than we are as a club, and there's not much else we can do. We got promoted. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. We're always on different trajectories, I think. Sell him if he's not going to sign, but the 15 million rumour is if true, is a joke. I agree. But if there's excuse me, if there's only one bidder or one club that is interested in, and it's a one-horse race, then how do you get them to up the bid? You keep rejecting it, I understand that, but they can sign him for nothing 1st of January. All right, he stays with us until the end of the season, but how committed is he if he's already signed for another club? So it's a really tricky one. It's a bit of a chess game. And I think something like a heavy sell-on clause would favour us a little bit better in these negotiations if we choose to sell him. Apparently, it's 35 mil release clause that we want. But if it's a good season, someone will snap him up at that price. I heard the 35 million, Cavill. I'm not sure on official numbers whether that's bang on. It seems a bit top heavy for us, to be honest. I think it's a bit cheeky of us to say to him, you can't go for less than 35 mil if you sign this contract. I don't think it'll be as high, if I'm honest. Send him to Saudi. Yeah. They'll pay us 100 million. What let's take him now? Cash in, says Gaza. He's aware that a release clause prices Marseille out of the equation. Well, as I've alluded to previously, and I know Darren's also said the same, and I'll keep referring back to Darren because he's the closest one to the Prince. but I've already spoken about it on here. The negotiations have got Marseille specific conditions in. So you could say it's 25 million to any club other than Marseille, and it's 15 million to them, or whatever it might be. And you can post date it so it don't become active until 1st of July next year. So there's ways and means around it. I think if it was just on the release clause numbers, it'd have been done. I think there's obviously something else getting in the way. Hey up, Jimmy, says Ian. If Illy's pushing, I think we should let him go, but not on the cheap. Keep him and lose the fee, or sell him for a good fee to Al, whoever. Go to Saudi. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I think we'll be very weak without him, but very dependent on who we bring in. Yeah, the next move would be key, wouldn't it? It's all right, me throwing out Cameron Archer. If it turns out he's not available, who else? Obviously you'll all have different names that you think of, but I'm not sure there's nobody like Illiman. We couldn't ever get a like for like replacement. But I'm talking about Cameron Archer's a proven serious goal scoring machine at championship level. Nearly, if Akpom had been in the equation, I think in his half season at Borough would have had him up and around the top scorers in the entire league. He just looked lethal every time I saw him. So I really want Cameron Archer, as we all know. But if it's not Archer, I'm not sure who we could get that would even cushion the blow of Illiman going. And if we go foreign, then yes, we'll be spending more money, so it's less of a risk, I'm sure, in terms of the quality. But it's still always a risk in it going foreign, because they're not proving it in Premier League. Very dependent on who we bring in, Wayne, you're right. One day he's staying, the next he's going. Can't imagine what Eki's feeling. Can't imagine what Prince is feeling. It's all right, us, but this could affect the sale. If we sell our best player for 15 million quid, and let's be right, he's a 40 million pound player, then does it affect the price of the club? Because the assets aren't as high. It's tricky, innit? Cash in 15 million, asked for a sell on, says Rich. I'd push for 20 and a 20% personally, but whether we get that, I am not sure. Be interesting to hear what Eki says tonight about Illiman. Yeah, it will. Archer's valued at 25 to 30 mil. Where have you seen that, Scott? I think that'd be a bit... listen, I'm not saying he's not worth it. You know how big a fan I am. But I think they might struggle to get that price. Listen, it just sounds like Brewster again, that, doesn't it? In terms of... I think Archer's a better player and proven more, but I think people will be reluctant to pay that sort of money. That's English tax in it, I think. A release clause to Marseille, 15 to 20 is ridiculously low, but it's 15 to 20 million more than we'll get if he doesn't sign and goes on a free. Yeah, I agree. But why would he sign it? Why would he sign that contract? For us to even be in the conversation, I was amazed. I was absolutely amazed. What about the Georgian lad? Link from Metz. Is he plan B? No, he's not plan B. He's not in the equation, Ian. Need to plan for a winning championship team and hope some results go our way in the Prem, and maybe, but thin squad, not much hope. I think, listen, the club won't be thinking like this, but I always think the smartest way to do it is plan for the worst. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, whatever the saying is. And if we build a squad that's sustainable, as in like we don't have if Illiman were on a 3-year contract and we get relegated, Illiman definitely goes. Anel definitely goes out of this squad if we get relegated. Sander will walk at end of season anyway if he don't get sold before. But I'm talking about players that will stay with us in the championship, that don't have to be sold to balance the books. I'm not saying they're not going to be a really strong player, but you look at, I just think like a Tommy Doyle, for example, we could, if we got Tommy Doyle, and I'm not saying we're going to, because it looks like even that's becoming a little bit challenging. But if we got Tommy Doyle on a 4 or 5 year contract and we get relegated, yeah, absolute nightmare. But we're not then going to have loads of teams scrambling around to get Tommy Doyle off us. And if we are, then we're going to make a profit on it. So I think there's some merit in thinking a little bit longer term with this, because if we think short term, then we're losing Illiman and Dye, and we're losing Sander potentially for nothing at end of season. So it's tricky, isn't it? Sell him, get Archer in, better deal. And if he's wanting to go, let him go. Yeah, I'd get Archer in. If Archer's available, I'd sell him. And I think that's probably a conclusion I'm coming to. If he's not, then I don't really know which side I fall on. I got that, Paul. Don't worry, mate. Any truth behind the interest in the lad from Mets? No, there isn't, pal. No, there isn't. If you don't want to sign the contract, cash in. We've got players wearing the shirt that want to be at the club. Again, and absolutely, Kyle, you're fully entitled to your opinion, and I get why people think this. Just because he wants to play for Marseille more, or that's what we think is his headspace at the minute, don't mean he don't love playing for Sheffield United. Because look, he could have ditched us in January if he'd wanted to. Everton were there. They'd have trebled his wages. I don't think this one's on the kid himself, if I'm honest. And even if it is a decision that he's made, right, it's time that I moved on. How can we... You can't turn on him. He's one of the nicest kids you've ever seen, isn't he? And it's not just about his personality, but I just mean in terms of his whole attitude. He's not kicked up a fuss. He's not done a Ramsdale, has he? I'm not playing. So we've got to be right, haven't we? We've got to treat him with respect that he deserves. He's done a good job for us. That's my opinion, Kyle. As I say, mate, I understand the all if you don't want to wear the shirt, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as that. John says, I'd rather him stay for a season, help keep us up and go for no, rather than sell him now and possibly get relegated. Staying up is everything. And with a new owner and investment, we can consolidate. Absolutely, John. I see your point, and I'll raise you. What if he can't keep us up? And that is it. I know you're probably on the other side saying it's a risk we take. But can you imagine the feeling we'll have if we keep Illiman and we keep Sander after rejecting bids for him, and then both walk out for nothing and we finish 18th? And we're in Championship. No Tommy Doyle, no McAtee, no Anel, because he'll get sold, no Sander, no Illiman. When we could have cashed in early doors and, yes, probably given ourselves slightly less chance of survival, but really strengthened the squad as a whole. And you don't have to go out and get Cameron Archer and Tommy Doyle. I'm talking there will be marquee signings in terms of replacing, not like for like, because they're not similar players, but I mean like position for position. Or you could spread it a little bit thinner and get a Hamza Chowdhury in, or Victor Johansson, who I thought was superb tonight, you know, goalkeeper and a midfielder for a combined 10 million or something. So it gives you more options to pad out the squad. I just think we need to think about this without just, it needs to be a sensible decision, doesn't it? And there's not a right answer, is there? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to gauge what would be best for the club. Some are willing to risk it, some are not. And I get both sides. I've had enough of this illy that. Time to go. Holding club at ransom. Unproven at Prem level. Could have a crap season and still go for no. Club is bigger than any player. Get rid and get new blood. Danny, you'll have heard now. I don't completely agree, but completely respect your opinion. Absolutely. I have no problem with people thinking that. We're passionate about our club, aren't we? We want players who want to be here and want to play for the shirt. But I don't think this is necessarily as cut and dry as that. I don't think that's particularly the case, really. It's not just the fee for Archer and Doyle. They'll be on massive wages. Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will. And they'd have to agree to a wage reduction if they were to sign for us. But you can offset that a little bit with a big sign-on fee. Listen, Scott, them two are just a little bit over-optimistic from me, probably. We'll be lucky to get one of them. It looks like we're struggling to get Doyle on a permanent, as we've talked about. I'm just using them because they're best placed examples I can use, because I've talked about Archer an awful lot. And he would be the only one for me that would cushion the blow of Illiman leaving, because I think he's got that much potential. And we know that Doyle fits into this team, this club, so well. But there'll be others. You know, if the decision is made to sell Illiman and even Sander, there will be others that come in and do well for us as well. Really torn on this one, Jimmy. Cheers, Kristen. So my pal. That's the whole point of me asking you guys to help me. As much as I'd love to keep him, 15 to 20 million would buy as a long-term replacement, and would have to be Archer for me. Absolutely, pal. We're in the same boat. We've got the same dilemma. And I think a lot of fans are like this, to be honest. Apart from Mr. Vancouver. I am sick and tired of this bullcrap. If he's made up his mind, he's made up his mind to go to Marseille, we've got to get the best deal possible now and invest all the money on new players. It's very sad. Absolutely, it is. Yeah, it is. It's really sad. He's the best player I've ever seen in a United shirt. Totally agree, Kristen, says Rich. Our Ramblers on the same page. Love to see it. Do you trust that the club will use the money well? Oh, Wayne, what a position to put me in. And I say that because I'm loosely aware of a rumoured replacement for Illy. And I can't speak about it because it's not right that I do. But I think it will split opinion. And I don't necessarily think it would be the right move. But that's my opinion. I'm not in charge of the transfers. I don't know is the answer. Just like we don't know about Larouci or Slimani or even Traore, no matter how good he looks in the highlight packages. We've just got to trust the club. Listen, the one thing I would say is Eki ain't gone far wrong, has he? I know we all knew a little bit about Tommy Doyle before he came. I think most people would be kidding if they said they knew all about James McAtee, because I certainly didn't. And they were proven to be the right men for us. I say men loosely with Jimmy Mack, but the right players for us. So I think they've got credit in the bank is what I'd say, Wayne. And even though I may question their potential signings or rumoured signings or whatever it might be, I'm not paid to make those decisions. I'm at Eki is. Eki will make the final call on it. And I trust Eki is where I'll probably best put it. Ross agrees, getting frustrated with it all now. I just can't see the Blades reinvesting the money wisely if we do get a fee for him. If he wants to go, let him go. No one's bigger than the club, says Craig Miss Kelly. Yeah, no one is bigger than the club. Absolutely right. Even Everton could chuck him 80k a week. It's obviously not about money. They offered him more than that, mate, and he turned it down because he knows he can do better than Everton, and he can. Susan, good evening, Susan. I feel the weather reflects my mood. Storm clouds gathering. Can't stand any more of this. It's torture even for a Blade. Let him go now. Yeah, strong opinions. I appreciate you sort of most of you nailing your colours to mast on this because I think it's a tough, it can go either way, can't it? Keeping Illiman is not a guarantee for us to stay up, correct? If he doesn't want to stay, he may not be a player he is. Cash in and get someone who wants to be a Blade. Again, I don't think it's as cut and dry, but, you're right. It doesn't guarantee us to stay up if he stays. If he stays for another year, says Robert, without signing a new contract, then he stays on the existing wages. Yes, he does. And surely that plays a part. He's on a pittance, an absolute pittance. BladesRamble.com. You will not believe your eyes. Gareth says, hi, mate. Toss of a coin for me if he stays. Absolutely, guys. That's what I think, mate. That's what I think. I could be persuaded either way. How much we're talking to sell, gang? Yeah, what's your price? Chirac. Let me know if I'm saying that right. Chirac. I'm just thinking with Chicago Bulls, isn't it? Anyway, how much? What's your price? Don't be talking 30 million because it's not going to happen. What's your realistic price? What would you put in his contract? Or what would you ask for him now if Marseille were coming in? Blades fans say Illiman stays. I hope whichever Blades fans saying that are right if he's signing a new deal, but don't know if he will. I think he should go as much as I want him to stay. His heart won't be in it. And I think cash in and get a better player if that's possible. I get that thought process, Andrew. I do think he's a little bit of a different breed, if I'm honest. He's never once looked to me like he's not putting everything into his game. So I would like to think you've not nailed that one. But I do understand the thought process behind it. If you know that you're going to another club, particularly if he signs a pre-contract in January, that might affect things a little bit. Oh, well, I know I'm going to Marseille next season. If I break my leg, then, I'm going to be off. I'm going to be on bench to start and all this sort of whatever it is. No Tommy Doyle, regardless of sales. Surely, if he won't sign a relegation clause, yeah, I think you're right, Wayne. I think that probably rules out Tommy, certainly on a permanent. But it was more of an example piece. But I think we need to utilise the money that we get if we choose to sell Illiman and Sander. We need to utilise them. If another example, excuse me, and not of the same caliber as Sander, but one me and my dad talk about quite a bit. I've mentioned it on here. Lewis O'Brien. So Lewis O'Brien, we think is quite highly priced at the minute by Forest. They're not going to do us any favours at all in terms of getting that down. And Lewis O'Brien isn't of the same caliber as Sander Berger. There's no doubt about that. But Lewis O'Brien also improves us as a team. And he is not proven in the Premier League. I'll take my hat off and say that. Nor is Tommy Doyle, by the way. But he's proven to be a very, very good championship player. So if the worst happens, and say we sell Sander Berger, we get Lewis O'Brien in, and the worst happens and we go down, Lewis O'Brien's a blade. Takes his wage cut like a man, like the rest of them, like George Baldock, who will hopefully sign a new deal, and all these sort of players. And we're a stronger team for it. So I think there's method in my madness, if you know what I mean. So selling our assets for nothing and accepting defeat, what's stopping the other lads out of contract next year, seeing a sinking ship and moving on? I don't think it's really a sinking ship if you're a Premier League team, is it? Because there'll always be players willing to come in and replace you, if that's the case, Scott. We could pick up 15 free transfers now if we wanted to. There's players like, I'm not saying we're going to get these sort of players. It's not in our model and it's not somebody I particularly want. But for example, there's players of the caliber of like an Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who, we could sign if we wanted to. Maitland-Niles is probably a better example, who we're still in discussions with, and it's up to him what he wants to do. But these sort of players are out there. So if a John Egan decides, I'm going to walk out at end of season, well, for me, I'm doing some digging on this because I think John Egan's one of those with an option on. And I think George Baldock's got an option. And I think some of the players that we're all fretting over have got options anyway. But the other point I'm making, Scott, is we can replace these players too. And we will have to eventually. John Egan's, 30 now? Which is no age. And I'm not saying he's past it by any means. But, if we bring in a Ronnie Edwards, for example, longer term, we're building, aren't we? It's a turnover. It's a natural turnover. We've seen Ender go. We've seen Billy go. We'll see Fleck go next season. I would have thought. It'd be sad to see the fans turn on him if he doesn't end up signing a contract, just like they did with Lunny. I want sad about Lunny, if I'm honest, Cavill. I get your point, and it will be very sad if fans turn on him. And I think it'd be unfair, unjustified. He's wanting to go to his boyhood club, whereas John Lundstrom wanted to leave us purely for the money. So I think it's different circs, but I get your point, and it's fair. If he does go, we're going to be weaker than in the Championship. No Doyle, McAtee and Ilya, I think you mean. I really hope the Prince reinvests. I think we're on a sound financial footing, though, aren't we? We're trying to be sensible. And I get what you're saying. It's always a balance. What we don't want to do, because I don't want you to think I'm going too far one way, we certainly don't want to be waving white flag and saying, all right, well, we'll sell us players and we'll prepare for Championship. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about buying a sustainable squad or piecing together a sustainable squad that if we do get relegated, which is a strong possibility, we've got to be realistic, then we are in the absolute best position to come back. And we've just got to be smart about it. Whichever way it goes with Illiman, it needs sorting quick to give Eckett best chance to build a team. Absolutely, Jace, you're right, pal. FC Mets striker, I've mentioned it a couple of times, Ricky. It's not happening, mate. Don't worry. I said, don't worry. You might want him, but 18 mil to sell on and look to reinvest in Archer or Mikowadze. We're not interested in this Mikowadze lad. Mikowadze. For 18 mil. Yeah, it's not sort of money we're going to throw around. Just fed up with all the newspaper reports, Jimmy. I know, Michael, me too, mate. It's like a bloody roundabout, isn't it? But I think there's something in this, to be honest, now. If he does go, we're weaker than last season. No Illy Doyle and McAtee. Really hope the Prince reinvests. Yeah. I think, if he sells, then we will. We will reinvest. We've got to replace the players we lose, no doubt about it. But we won't get the same level of quality. The reason they're going is because they're in a sticky situation with the contracts, which means they go at a heavy discount. So we won't have the money to reinvest in a like for like. Because how do you replace Illiman and Dye? I suppose the closest thing you could get is like an Eze at Palace, and he's just got into England squad. So what's he worth now? You're not going to get a replace. I know they got him for like 10, 12, didn't they, from Championship, but there's not many about. Controversial, but feel like the club board are throwing in the towel already. It is controversial that Ross this season, expecting to be relegated and just want us to be ambitious, which I'm not getting the warm, fuzzy feeling. I disagree, but I can see why you would think that. But obviously, we want to stay up. Listen, he's not sold anybody yet. He sold Ramsdale in the last 5 years, I think, in terms of our quality players that have walked out. And we could have sold Illiman and Sander long before, but we held on to them at a financial deficit, a huge financial deficit, which was a huge gamble, because if we hadn't gone up this season, we'd have been in a right mess. So I think it's a little bit unfair, to be honest, Ross, to say that. But, you are entitled to your opinion, and that mine's just different. That's all. Thought Brooks looks raw, but with lots of potential. Agree, Double H. I don't know if you're Triple H's lad, but yes, agree, pal. Brooks is really good. Really good prospect. 5 years after Zaha was going to Arsenal for 80 mil, the last 10 windows, he's gone to Galatasaray for note. Yeah, exactly. He's like a super burger, isn't he? We need to give Illy an ultimatum, sign a contract or sell to Marseille. This uncertainty isn't any good for the club. Liam, you're right in terms of we need a decision from him. If we give him an ultimatum, he's not choosing us, is he? And I know you probably would say, fine, then we've got a decision. But surely we want to give ourselves every chance of getting him to sign a contract. The fact that we're even in the conversation to get him to sign is unbelievable. It just feels like it's tipped against us, this one, unfortunately. Ignore it all until it's signed. I don't think you can, Ian. Certainly us as fans can't, and there'll be contingency plans at the club in case it happens. So we are ready to move if and when these things happen. But we can't ignore it, can we? And I don't just mean because I'm somebody who creates content, but this is why there's 238 people here. It's because it's on the tip of his tongues. We need to talk about it. We need to know what's happening. We care about this. I'm on record. I think I said it in the last live. I've certainly said it online. This would be the most important signing of our club's history. And I said it to someone very important within the club. This would be the best signing we could possibly make. And it's possibly up there with best signing in our club's history. If he were to sign a contract extension, because of the intent it shows, I can't believe he's not negotiating with, higher powered clubs where he can treble his wages. I get the Marseille thing, but as much as I love Illy, he needs to make a decision as to what he wants so he can get someone in to somewhat fill his role. Somewhat, that's the problem, isn't it? Double H. Well, he put notice on his rented place 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, that may be true, Taz, but there were rumours as well that he were buying a house in Sheffield. So them sort of rumours you can let him run wild and run away with you, can't you? It could be anything that. I've read on the Sheffield Star that Sheffield have officially talked to Metz for the 23-goal striker. But is that true, or is it just a rumour? It's a rumour that's not true. This is tangent slightly. Ben clearly says Sheffield have spoken to Metz, and I'm not calling you out for that, Ben, but it's more to make my own point. I'm not offended when people call us Sheffield. I know a lot of people do get offended. It's United. It's Sheffield United. But surely, if people outside of the club and outside of the region only think of Sheffield as being one team, and that's a red and white team, then I think it's a little bit of a feather in our cap, personally. So I'm not offended by it at all. I worry about the psychological cost on the other players if Dyer leaves. Somebody mentioned this earlier, and I think that's right. They all know he's the best at the lane since Sabella. I couldn't confirm that because I didn't see Sabella play. I've heard a lot about him, obviously. But I do think that's understated, that The players obviously want the best possible chance of remaining in the Premier League, and they will clearly see they're not daft. He's our best chance of doing so, or certainly gives hugely improved chances. So they'll want him to stay too. And it could hit morale if he goes. But it all depends on what we do with that cash, doesn't it? If we make ourselves a stronger, we were talking only in the last live about we looked quite weak actually when we did a sort of an A team against a B team in Portugal. A team and a B team, one half and other half. So if we're going to invest in the squad as a whole, I know we're not going to get loads for Element. We're certainly not going to get anywhere near his value, but it depends what we do with the cash, doesn't it? Whatever's going to happen, it needs to happen now so we can get a replacement, says Rob. Not on transfer deadline day when it's too late. Agreed, but excuse me, sorry. What I'd say to that is, if it gets too late, we can just say no. And I know the money might then be too good, but if we haven't got a replacement lined up, or Ecky's not 100% happy with squad or any potential replacement, we won't do it because he holds the cards in terms of where this goes ultimately. But in terms of this season, we still have a say, don't we? So you're right, Rob. It can't go to deadline day if we're not ready for that. And I'm not sure it will. It could do, though. Possible Sheffield United transfer window outcome. Sell Illiman and Sander for 40 mil. Buy a striker. Buy 2 new midfielders, one on a perm and one on loan. Buy a left centre-back, a loan to buy. Yeah, and we still have a loan left over, won't we? So I like it. I like it. We're looking at a left centre-back loan to buy. That's moving along nicely from what I understand. I don't know about buying a striker. I'd love to buy Cameron Archer. I suppose, yeah, because if we're losing Illiman, yeah, we would. I like that. Sonny. I like it, pal. Can't see where the goals come from if he goes. Me neither. Me neither, Ross. It's a huge gaping hole in our team. Best player I think we've ever had. It's not an easy task. I'm not saying I want to get rid of him. It's just what do we do for best for club? Any chance we wait until the end of the transfer deadline to up his contract? So it could maybe go in January instead of now. Maybe. I think we've offered him maximum that we can. We've sort of said this is our best offer, and it appears as though it's not good enough. How's Brooks doing? Is he an option to get back? I'm assuming from getting back, do you mean David Brooks? He's obviously recovered from his illness, thankfully, and was in and around the Bournemouth first team, wasn't he, when he was coming back? So I don't think he would be available, Paul, to be honest, mate. The release clause can't be 35 mil. Otherwise, why would we sell him now for 15? We could just drop the release fee to 20, 25, 30 mil, sign him and keep him at the lane. Absolutely. There's more to it than just a release clause. There's more to it. I don't know what that is, by the way. I'm just saying there must be. Absolutely must be. We need to take this year as a gift. Plan for the following season in the Championship. Archer would be amazing. Steve, I'm, again, at the risk of sounding white flaggy, I'm of that opinion. We need to think about the long-term success of the club. And there used to be these teams like West Brom and Norwich have done it. Yo-yo clubs who would go down. Fulham did it, and look at them now, establishing themselves. I think they might struggle this year, to be honest. But it's so tough to become a sustainable Premier League club. And the reality is we're going to lose our 2 best players probably for nothing at the end of the season if we don't do something about it now. So we need to be planning for the long term, use whatever assets we've got to secure some quality players long term, even if they're not quite at the levels of the 2 that we've got now. Completely agree, Steve. Like you've mentioned previously, these loans we need to fill could help massively. David Brooks getting back. I'm not in that camp, Kyle, to be fair, getting Brooksy back, but I'm not going to, turn my nose up at it completely. I know. You can all read that comment for yourself. Fleck Norwood, Robbo and Osborne, Division 1 here we come, baby. I mean, listen, we're not that negative, are we? We don't think that really, but they're not Premier League quality, those players. None of them, including Jackie Longthrow. Sorry, Jimmy, but if a mate was this indecisive about something I care about, I'd be looking for a new friend, let him go. I thought you meant me, in terms of I couldn't make my mind up. Yeah, that knows, pal. I know what you mean. We need a decision from him, don't we? Paul, Welcome to the Members Club. Well, you are our newest Rambler. Thank you for joining us, pal. You will now be getting exclusive content because we're over that threshold, and I'm going to start doing fortnightly content. I can't commit to what day at the minute because what I don't want to do is for it to become a set night and it to be a chore. So we're going to just randomly drop in like I do with my rambles, but it'll be a members exclusive, and we'll probably do something similar to this, and it won't go anywhere near as long as this. But that's what we're looking at because it's a thank you to you guys for supporting the channel. Everything you put in goes back into the channel. You'll hopefully notice that the camera is improving and things like that. We're trying to push on all the time. So thank you. Really appreciate that support. There's a link in the description below if anybody else wants to become a member. But please do subscribe in terms of getting us on the map, if you like. Paul says, the media claim we offered Sander to Milan for 15 mil. Is that Giaconori or a sign that the club wants to raise funds to buy Doyle? Right, with this, I believe, and this is an opinion rather than fact, I believe the club are willing to entertain offers for Sander because he's not coming to the table with anything. And I still think, to a degree, he's a bit of a luxury player for us. That doesn't mean he won't shine in the Prem. I think he'll be a lot better for us in the Prem. And I think we'll see more positive performances than mediocre. Like his inconsistency were a bit of an issue for me last season. Because when Sander Berge turns it on, he's like a fine wine, isn't he? It was like men against kids sometimes last season. We're not trying to raise the money. So if a bid of 15 million comes in, I think we'll accept it. And it wouldn't surprise me if we're offering him to clubs. Or certainly his agents are inviting bids. So I believe that to be true, or I wouldn't be surprised at all if it were proven to be true. Signing Doyle is proving very difficult. I think we're priced out a little bit just by his wages. The transfer fee is very modest. We've got a great relationship with City, and they've been nothing but fair. You've got to say they're probably doing us a favour, really, with if it does come out about what fee they're asking. It's his wages, and that's a lot of people find that difficult to believe because he hasn't kicked a ball in Premier League, or if he has, as I said the other night, it's not many. But his wages are too high, and if he don't agree to this wage reduction, it's a moot point, really. Didn't Marseille sack him off? I would have thought we were his club. Because he was there as a youth player, I think he means. I would have thought we were his club. There's being right, then there's leaving us in the lurch. Is he leaving us in lurch if we sell him now? Is he doing us a favour if he stays with us till the end of the season? And that's going to be our choice, potentially. So I know what you're saying, but if I got released by Blades as a youth, and then I were offered a chance to go back to him in Premier League, or if they're in Champions League in Marseille, playing Europe for Blades, then I'd be going back. Billy Sharp, we did the same to Billy, didn't we? Sold him twice. Came back and we're a legend at the club. Caught you live, out Pixie. For me, it's more important, says Josh, to be as good as possible next season rather than this season. Yeah, in terms of equipping us for long term. I agree, Josh. I agree, mate. I think whatever we get for Illy, we'll be lucky to see a third of the cash. No, I think there's cash available now. It's just about doing what's right for the club. I think people are getting too hung up on the semantics, really. It sounds a bit posh, doesn't it? But it's not as black and white as we sell him for 15 million. So Eki has now got a budget of 15 million plus the 20 that we had. So it's not as black and white as that. It's who comes up, and like if Archie became available for 20 million and we sold Illiman for 15, I've no doubt if we're interested in him as a club, then we will pay it because even though it's 5 million more than we wanted to spend, or it's 5 million more than we got for Illy, it's right for the club. His head says United, but his heart says Marseille. Yeah, probably right, Gaza. There's a little bit of his heart in Sheffield as well, I'm sure. Don't know if this is a realistic question, but would you sell Sander to get money for Doyle? If that was the arrangement, Dylan, I would, pal. But I don't think it's like for like. I don't think it's in the works that way. I would sell Sander for Lewis O'Brien, if I'm honest. Downgrade in player, no doubt. But an upgrade in our first 11 still. and longevity in terms of securing the asset for the long term. The asset. I don't like talking about players like that, but I'm on about so we don't have another situation like this. You know, you sign Lewis O'Brien on a 5-year +1. You're getting his best years in a Sheffield United shirt, aren't you? What do you think to the away kit? I don't like it. Me neither, pal. Me neither. And if the rumoured away kit is the mucky yellow that we've seen circulated online, I don't like that one either. I'm not a big kit man, though, to be honest. As long as there's red and white on home kit, red and white stripes, I'm not bothered. Also, to add that jummy, all the players next year, contracts running out, sell and pad the squad out for next season, future plans need to be looked at. Agree, bids? Agree. I've been banging on about Mike Cooper at Plymouth. I thought Wes looked a little bit shaky tonight, if I'm honest. I think we need a goalkeeper. But even if it's just with next season in mind, so you buy him and you loan him to Plymouth for season and all that sort of thing that we've talked about previously, but we need to start longer term planning. And we are. If you look at some signings, Traore's 20, Larouche, if we stay up, no doubt we'll probably he'll have to have played okay, and we'll no doubt buy him. He's 22. Slimani, 22, looked good in brief appearances we've seen. So we're getting younger, and that is clearly going to be the model now that we've got some money back in the pot. Not as much as we'd like, but some money back. Doyle wants the Blades move, but money's preventing it. Absolutely, Sonny. Excuse me. You're right. There's only one person that can change that. 3 parties want it to happen. Blades want it to happen. City want it to happen. Doyle wants it to happen, but there's only one that can change that. He needs to back himself that even if we go down, he's good enough to help us back up, and he'll get his money. So it's a tough one because he don't have to, and I don't know whether we would. I don't know whether we'd risk a pay cut of 40% of his wage. You know, it's hard to criticise. I would, Dylan, but Doyle might not sign with the relegation clause. Yeah, so that's Rich answering Dylan's question about would you sell Sander for Tommy. Kyle, what a boy. Welcome to the Ramblers Club. Official exclusive membership just for you. Thank you very much. Your support is very much appreciated. I shall not let you down, my friend. United should have signed Pookie, Adam. No, I'm not even commenting. Wasn't possible at the time, Adam. Why are 2 people talking about signing Teemu Pukki? He's gone to America to retire. And he didn't score a goal from January last season. Always 1 step forward, 2 steps back with United, says Dan. Only we could have a penniless Saudi owner. Any news on a sponsor? No, pal, there isn't, unfortunately. All very well turning down big offers from betting firms, but we need the money. We do. I get, yeah, there's an argument, isn't there? Should we lower his moral standards for the money, which we clearly need? I get some people who'd say that. I'm quite happy with us turning down morally poor sponsors. The thing that we need to be aware of is there's media commitments now by end of month. So we're 5-6 days away. We need to be like taking the photos for the little runway walks like we were talking about for Sky Pictures where they walked at camera and they smile and just things like that, Sky Bet and other things. Neil looked good tonight, says Pixie. Yes, he did. Very good. Welcome to the party, Harrison Neil. Till he got tired, looked decent. Yeah, he got leggy towards end. Facebook are on meltdown. Muppets think we're down before Christmas. We're not down before Christmas. If we go down, which we may, we'll go down fighting. There will not be a repeat of that COVID season. I trust the players to give it their all. You can't play for United. You won't survive at United if you don't give it everything. The fans would not have stood for that roll over and tickle me belly attitude in the COVID season if we were allowed in. Just wouldn't have happened. Release clause for Illiman or his agent must be less than 15 mil. Otherwise, we would agree to their demands. Sign him and keep him for at least a season. We don't know, do we, Paul, to be fair? Because, if we post-dated that and said in July it becomes active, 15 mil, that's great. But if we said it now, if we sign that deal now, then Marseille will swoop in and buy him for 15 mil, won't they? So I know what you're saying, but I don't think it's as cut and dry. You don't trust the club, do you? That's you're entitled to that. I understand why people don't. I do. I think they've earned that. That don't sound very promising, Jimmy. I don't know which bit you mean, Todd, but yeah, I'm just being honest with you, pal. And it's my opinion, and if it's more factual, I'll let you know. But Double H, Larouci looked decent going forward. I thought we're a bit lackluster as a defender. I'm not sold on Larouci yet. Listen, I'll give him benefit of doubt. I've not seen a lot of him. But that's 2 for 2 in terms of very average appearances for me. Why do players always think the grass is greener elsewhere? Because it is when it's your club, isn't it? It is. Listen, if that's what we're about, Terence, I think he'd have gone now. One team would be on a lot more money. A lot more money. Where am Marseille getting the money from? No idea. Lodi 30 million. Same with Sarr. Aubameyang will be on high wages. They aren't a cash-rich club. No, I think the speculation, Matthew, is that they're rolling the dice, basically, and spending the money before they've got it and hoping that these purchasers, it's SR bust, I think, basically, is what some people would call it, and that these players push them to qualify for next round at Champions League where they get a flood of money. So they're all in, I think, on Champions League. Bringing Chair for Illy, yeah, I like that one. I like that. Class on the ball, like any other Blades manager, can get the best out of him. I think he'd make the step up, and ideally, if we go back down as a good, strong Championship midfielder, those are the type of players we want, aren't they, Danny? Let's be right. We agree on that one, pal. What's the latest on the takeover? Any news yet? Outdoor Adventures, Dave asks. No, nothing new, I'm afraid, at the moment. We're expecting to hear something in 3 to 4 weeks, aren't we? So if I hear anything before then, you'll be first. You'll a bit first to know. If no bids come in, then what's going on? Looks like the Prince wants to sell and hoping on a bid. To me, there's no bid, then no sale. It's for Illiman or the club, but Illiman, absolutely right. If nobody bids, then we're not selling him, are we? Lund says he needs to look at Jack. Luckily, Jack was still in contract when he got injured and now had to retire. It could happen to him, and we'll have no income next year or longer if long term. He'll be insured, pal. He'll, like I'm sure Jack O'Connell is. If that's proven to be the end of his career, I'm sure he'll get a hefty payout from his insurance, which it has for Jack O'Connell, sorry. But if Illiman were injured, he will be insured for millions. Not that he can probably afford to pay it with pittance of a wage that he's on. Just going to keep the faith in Eki, says Paul, our newest Rambler, and crew to get us another season in the Prem. Que sera, sera. Absolutely. I back Eki as well, pal. I do. The Prince guy will sell and won't give us any cash. Watch. I'm sensing a slight anti-Prince vibe here from your good self, Chirac, and that's okay. That's okay. We're an open platform. We've all got opinions. We're all entitled to them. There's a very real chance, says Wayne, that we'll have a weaker team starting the Prem than we finish the Championship with. Yes, we will. I think we will, unless these two midfielders are as good as Tommy Doyle and McAtee were for us, these two domestic loans that we get in, and we'd have to keep Illiman and Sander, then we are going to start with a weaker team than we finished Championship with. But we went very well in Champ. We can't forget that. And I'm confident in these lads to step up. Thought Larouci did okay tonight, says Paul. There's a player in there seemed positive with forward passes. Horses for courses. I didn't think he did. He did okay in spurts, but it didn't impress me really, to be honest. Thank God we were a cracking academy. Probably one of the best investments McCabe did for the club. We keep churning them out, don't we? And it's really pleasing to see. It's like a solid foundation for a club. Fleck and Norwood, in a year's time, back in the Champ, ain't going to get us back up. We need blood in them under 23s fast. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't be disappointed to see Harrison Neal stick around after tonight's performance. But I think he's 22 now, which would mean he'd have to take an official place in the squad rather than sneaking in under extra youth player, if you like. So it'd be a big leap of faith in him if we did. And I think there'd be a bit of backlash in that regard on the club, which is balmy, but I think there would. Only negativity I heard or read has come from the media and some fans, none from the club up till now. Deadwood out, young talent brought in, and no top players sold. Absolutely right, John. Absolutely right, pal. I don't think we can criticise. I know why people do, because we get passionate about it and we only want to improve. But if you take a step back and you have a little bit of a look at how the landscape really is, I think they've done really well. What does it say to the rest of the lads and the fans if your best player walks out? The club will be on a downer. We need to be buzzing come August 12th. Yeah, but I think we've talked about that, haven't we, Ian? We need to play with all our youth over Fleck, Norwood, Robbo, Ozzy. They're our past or should be. Get playing the youth. Could find gems in there for the future. Yeah, but there's a balance in there. They've got to be ready. And I think you protect them better if you do it one at a time, really, or very rarely two at a time. You know, we've done it with Asula and Jebison, haven't we? They're now fully part of the first team mix. Asula might go out on loan, but Jebo, I'm sure, will be in and around the squad. And we will get there, but there's no point rushing them if they're not quite ready just because we don't think the existing squad are up to scratch. I think that's more for the here and now, isn't it? And replacing them if they need replacing. Illiman going to Marseille. That's more rumours from nobodies that wouldn't have played for tonight for start. Thought pre-season was for getting probably starting squad up to speed. Yeah, I get that theory, Craig. I think there's something to this Marseille move. He's still a blade at the end of the day. He's under contract. We don't want him to go. So, you know, if he'd have picked up a knock tonight, I don't think we'd have been absolutely heartbroken. Nobody wants anybody to get injured. But so I say that with tongue in cheek. But I don't think a deal's agreed. We haven't spoken to Marseille. There's been no formal bid. If there had, and we're discussing it at a high level and it's close to happening, then yeah, probably wouldn't have played. But we're not that close yet. I agree with you, Jimmy. When I said ignore it all, I meant the Foco getting stressed. Cheers, Ian. I beg Darren has dismissed these new rumours. I would hate him to leave as little optimism as I have for him staying. To lose Illy would demoralise all my hope. Sorry, L Dog. What's the percentage out of 100 of Illiman leaving? I think the percentage of him leaving at the end of the season, in terms of whether he goes earlier or not, I don't think we'll see him in a Sheffield United shirt again after this season. And I thought that even if he'd have signed a deal, I think it's probably 50-50 as to whether he stays now to the end of the season and walks out for nothing, or whether he's sold earlier than that. I think that's what we're trying to determine tonight, isn't it? Craig says, showed need for better keeper. Thought Wes looked like he was still in Portugal. We were that far away from free kicking goal. Listen, I agree, Craig. We've been saying it for some time on this channel. I get people's loyalty to Wes, but for me, there's no room for sentiment when you're talking about upgrading the squad, particularly at Premier League level. Rotherham are predicted to be bottom at Championship, and I get we're predicted to be down there in Premier League, but there's huge levels to this. And who would you rather have had in your goal tonight, if you're honest with yourself? The Rotherham keeper or the Blades keeper? And I think 90% of people, if they were honest with themselves, would say Victor Johansson is a better goalkeeper than Wes. Go get Victor Johansson. If you don't want to do my Mike Cooper thing, go get Victor Johansson. Also, if we don't bring any more midfielders in, I've even little hope so far this pre-season. This midfield looks stagnant. Can't see Eki investing in this position. We will. We're bringing in midfielders, L-Dog. Don't worry about that, pal. David Winter. Sorry, pal. I can't stop now. That's Nick's fault. Got back from Rotherham, poor. Jebo not up to it. Norwood not up to it. Positives, Brooks and young lad in midfield. Harrison Neal. Yeah, absolutely right. Hope Illiman stays. Played okay, but could tell he was trying not to get injured. I thought that as well. Jimmy, you took the words out of my mouth about us being called Sheffield. Been on about this for years. To the rest of the world, there's only one team in Sheffield, and as we know, they're right. Yeah, they are, pal. They are. We look so bad tonight. Strength in depth was not there, but it's a split squad more. You've got to remember that, pal. We lose Illy, we're done. No Egan, no Anel, no Sander. Well, Sander might be going, but you know, there's better players to come in. No McBurney. I have a feeling Marseille may wait until after the Champions League qualifiers before bidding. Qualifiers are end of August. They will, Scott. That's exactly right. Hit the like if you hate the pigs. Yes, let's hit the like. I don't know where we are. I don't know where we track that, to be honest, because I'm not on YouTube at the minute. I'm on StreamYard. So, yes, please do like the video and please subscribe. It's huge for the channel and it costs you nothing. And if you want to become a member, like Paul, and Kyle have done tonight, thank you very much, lads, then you're more than welcome. You'll get exclusive content. You'll get early recorded videos. You'll be spoken to about how we develop the channel and questions to our guests that are upcoming and stuff, all for the small price of $2.99 a month. So thank you, everybody that supports us. An unpopular opinion is our system doesn't help our strikers get a constant goal return, as we haven't really had any attackers in a while. So have a great season in terms of the goals. Can't be a coincidence. I preferred our system when we were overlapping. And listen, I think that's probably a little bit too predictable nowadays. Because we caught everybody by surprise. But I always think we're better when we get to the byline and pull it back across goal rather than try and cross from the edge of the box. So more of that, please, this season. We'll get George down and Larouci down sides. David Vinter did email wave goodbye to the fans. Oh, I don't want to know. Don't want to know. Long-term success of the club revolves solely around being in the Prem. Go down and you could be down there for years. Then it's a slippery slope. Fair point, Ian. Absolutely fair point. So, in your opinion, then, would you pool everything we've got and put it all into staying up? Because that's too risky for me. Too risky. Thank you, Jimmy. Love the channel and content is mint. Thank you, pal. Really appreciate it. Thank you for becoming a member. It means a lot. We love it, don't we? We love just talking about Blades, and I appreciate I've gone on a long time tonight, and they're just getting longer, these. But I don't like if people are taking time to comment. I want to sort of respond to you. Who says the new owners won't spend big in January? Yeah, who's to say that? Max, you're right, pal. They may do. This whole thing with Illiman is prematurely aging me and me, Mr. V. Let Berger go if it meant we can keep Illy or could get Doilinho. Yeah, absolutely. Said to Darren without response regarding takeover. If we'd sell our best players, surely that's going to put off investors or interest with us likely relegated. Yeah, well, if we're relegated, we're a much less enticing proposition, aren't we? We'll be doing everything we can to stay up. It's not a white flag situation, but I don't know what option we've got here, Illiman. We're not on about selling him so that you weaken the squad. We're on about, is it better to sell him now so we can reinvest in the squad with probably a slightly lower caliber player, or do we put all his eggs in this staying up basket and let him walk out for nothing? With all these newfangled camera stuff, have you resorted yet to a pre-Ramble makeup dab for that front Bonds glare, Jimmy? Listen, Darren Bell, I can't help my Bonds, can I? I'm going to try and come up with something witty and get you back for that, but I don't know what you look like. You're welcome to come on and show your shiny Bonds if you want. But I won't be wearing makeup, pal. It's just not my thing. No offense to people that want to wear it. That's absolutely up to you. His heart says United and his missus says Sheffield. Well, he's staying then, isn't he? That's the decision. If your missus says you're staying, you're staying. Best players last season were Illy, Sander, Doyle, McAtee, and Anel. It sounds like we'll have Anel only. And to be honest, if we go down here, we won't have Anel, will we? It's absolutely ridiculous when you've been promoted to the Premier League. We're in an absolute mess. And this is our opportunity with the money to reset the club. So you're right. You're right in a lot of ways of what you're saying. It's right. Our future is here and now, says Craig. And I get that too. So we gamble everything on Sander and Illiman keeping us up, because if they don't and we go down and we lose them for no, we're another Stoke, aren't we? Big worry for me is having a slow start at Prem and we sack the manager. We're not going to sack Eki, Paul. No chance. Certainly under this ownership. Look, a new owner might choose to go in a different direction, but I think as underwhelmed as a lot of the fan base were originally, I think there'd be a big backlash now if Eki were sacked. Not from Eki out Sal, me Aunt Sal, but from most. I'll cry if new ownership come in and Eki gets sacked. I don't think he will. Bang on, someone's taking the mickey. It's a joke. We could sell Norwood and Fleck. That'd give us 10 bob towards the Doyle price. Yeah. And a couple of milk cartons. Also consider Ilman's state of mind. He might want to stay for now, but be worried. If he turns down Marseille, they might never come in for him again. Listen, John, I get your point, mate. And he's probably, I don't think he doubts himself. I think he probably knows exactly how good he is. But Marseille will want Illiman and die. They won't. Look how hard they're going for him now. There's no way they are not back in for him. And if he needs me to convince him of that, then I will. think we all need an early neat to go to bed with positive thoughts. Up the Blaze. Yeah, night, Paul. Thanks, pal. I'm coming off soon, I promise. Got work in morning. He doesn't do the press after Rotherham game. He sent me a call out. Not wrong with Macca. Macca's a top man. Top man. Thinking of going to Marseille with him after all this bloody rain? Absolutely, pal. It's much needed venting session for the fans. Cheers, Jimmy. Paul, that's what we're here to do, pal. It made us feel better last time, I think. And it's making me feel slightly more better now. What about some crackers like Dele Alli? Can't imagine his wage. I can imagine his wages are nuts, but alone. Yeah, his wages will be nuts. I think he's an absolute 100% punt. I don't think we'll go for him, Paul. I wouldn't be as against it as some would be, and it depends what squad makeup's like, doesn't it? But I don't think he'll be. It's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout at all, because we know how good he can be. Either way, we've got a wonderful season in the Prem coming up. I bet South Barnsley team in North Sheffield would love to have what we've got. Exactly, John. They're looking a great mess, and long may it continue. No matter which way he goes, trust Eki to get it right. I do too, Andrew. I've got to go now, Jimmy, but hope you and the wife feel better soon as. Yeah, me too. Thanks, pal. We'll be right. I think, like Darren said, crunch time, club trying to take a sustainable approach. Losing him for free isn't sustainable. Using the money to a young striker on a 4-5, yeah, leaves us better off. I think same, Jake. Double H. Bit of an outside shout because he's not quite Prem proven last season, but was quite impressed by Winkle at Cardiff, which could be a good signing if we go down. I thought Cabba looked decent at Cardiff. You know, he might be, but how many gambles do you take? I think the signings we've made so far are gambles. The domestic loans we're talking about are going to be not proven Premier League players, but certainly domestic players. Did Larouci make you appreciate Max Lowe? No. Larouci's still my starting left wing back if Reece isn't fit, but come on, let's not pie in the sky in. Agree with David's comment earlier. Illiman was coasting tonight. There wasn't the fire we saw in those last two matches. It speaks volumes. Yeah. 20 likes. Is that all we've got? For 212 watching now, Paul. Poor that. Come on. We're better than that. The wife likes the kitchen. Is it from B&Q? It's from... Is it from... No. Wren. It's a Wren kitchen. Thank you. All Blades, aren't we? Yes, we are, Paul. All Blades, mate. Doilinho's a great nickname if we get him back. Agreed. Not a Hollywood bounce. Bond square. Jimmy, don't forget Illiman is one man. He isn't bigger than the club and will struggle. But I trust Eki to keep us up. I like this. The way this is going, the way we're turning the ship round, aren't we? Illy 100% leaving. If he wants out of United, has rejected a contract at United. Just come back from the match. Only Andre Brooks and Larouci played decent. You see, Hyder, welcome, pal. We're just wrapping up now, but I didn't think Larouci were great, to be honest. I thought Harrison Neal had a very good game, who you've not mentioned. Proper library at the match. None of the fans made any noise. I thought same. It sounded very quiet. I were hoping that we were belting out Illiman and Die songs and all this sort of stuff, showing what he means, but it was like a 50th. I was 50th. Oh, you were the 50th like. All right. Cheers, pal. 50 is not great, though, is it, for how many we've had in? And Danny says, thanks for the content. Chef United, listen, we're all pals here. We're all just trying to do our best to enjoy ourselves and bring you all decent content. If Illy leaves, we become a less attractive club to join for potential signings. Maybe that's what's holding up Doyle's decision. Maybe, Steve. Maybe there's something in that, pal. Oh, look at that. Give this to the club. Thank you, Paul, pal. A super chat, which I don't think I've had before. So thank you very much. That's very much appreciated. And give it to the club. They'll need help buying players. Much appreciated, pal. Paul, who once again, for those that aren't aware, helped streamline bladesramble.com. Got us up and running again after, because I pieced it together myself. It looked great on the outside. It's one of them things where it were probably broken to bits behind the scenes, and it started slowing down. Wasn't really that user-friendly. Paul's come in, cleaned it all up, and we're now running like a dream again. So thank you, Paul. Top man. Helps new YouTubers if you're interested. Now then, Blades, get in touch with him. He'll give you some pointers or watch his YouTube videos. Neil could be like Arblaster and Brooks. future of the club. Absolutely right. I agree. He's put himself into consideration tonight, hasn't he, for a spot down the line. Don't forget Ecky's still to bring in some more quality, even though they might be loans. Absolutely, Jace. Absolutely right. And we've been going long enough tonight. So thank you, everybody, for contributing tonight. Thanks for those of you that have joined us as Ramblers, new Ramblers to join the team. You're all welcome to join us. I don't know when I'll be back. It'll be soon, no doubt. If there's any major news, we'll be back on to discuss. Thanks again for your time. It's much appreciated. If you don't subscribe, please do if you like what we're doing, because it helps us grow. It helps get more eyes on the channel. But any support you can give is appreciated just by liking the video. Be spot on. So thanks again, all. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up. I'm having to slow it down because I haven't clicked my button fast enough. Up the blades.